Today, we are diving into something called environmental management, and we're going to connect the dots all the way from the vastness of our planet right down to a simple choice you can make today. So let's get right into it. All right, let's kick things off with a bit of a puzzle. Take a look at this. A weather report, a recycling bin, and a first aid kit. They seem pretty random, right? I mean, one's for the sky, one's for our trash, and one's for when we get hurt. But what if I told you they're all part of the exact same big idea? You see, they are all powerful tools for what we call environmental management. Every single one is about understanding, organizing, and then responding to the world around us, whether that world is the atmosphere, our own homes, or even our own bodies in a crisis. So let's start with the grandest environment there is, our atmosphere. Because to manage something so huge, we first have to understand it. And that means we need to learn how to decode the skies. This brings us to two words we use all the time but often mix up: weather and climate. Think of it this way. Weather is what's happening right now. It's the atmospheric conditions today in this very spot. It's short-term, it changes all the time. Climate, on the other hand, well, that's the long game. It's the average of all that weather over a really long time, and it defines the personality, you could say, of a whole region. And just how long is that long game? Well, scientists typically need about 30 years of data to truly define a region's climate. Think about that for a second. 3 decades of daily information all crunched together just to see the real underlying pattern. And the science that makes sense of all this is meteorology. But it's so much more than just predicting if it's going to rain. It's the deep dive into how air, natural cycles, and even the planet's own movements all weave together to create the weather and climate we experience every day. And here's a perfect real-world example of meteorology in action: the India Meteorological Department, or the IMD. It's been around since 1875, and its job isn't just to forecast the weather. Its most critical function is providing life-saving warnings for huge events like storms and tsunamis. Now that is environmental management on a massive life-saving scale. All right, so we've looked way up at the sky. Now let's bring it right back down to Earth, to a much more personal, everyday level. Let's talk about managing all the stuff that we create. Let's face it, we all generate waste every day. It's just an unavoidable part of living. So the really important question is, how do we manage it so it doesn't manage us? Well, the very first step is to know what we're dealing with. And our waste basically falls into 2 big categories. On one side, you've got biodegradable waste. Kitchen scraps, old food, stuff that microorganisms can break down pretty easily. And on the other side, you've got the tough stuff, non-biodegradable waste, like plastic, glass, and metal, things that stick around in the environment for a very long time. And here is the absolute perfect way to think about it. Waste management is just like sorting your laundry. I mean, you wouldn't throw your white t-shirts in with a brand new pair of jeans, right? Of course not. You sort them. It's the exact same principle with waste. If we mix our wet food scraps with our dry plastic bottles, we contaminate the whole batch, and it makes it almost impossible to recycle or compost anything. So sorting it right at the source is everything. So how do we put this into practice? Well, it all comes down to 3 simple but incredibly powerful actions, the 3 R's. First, and most important, is reduce. The best way to manage waste is to simply not create it in the first place. Second, reuse. Can you use that item again for something else? And third, recycle. Let's turn that sorted waste into something brand new. Okay, we've gone from the sky to the trash can. Now let's get even closer to home. What happens when the environment we have to manage is an immediate crisis, a personal disaster? So, on a large scale, disaster management is a whole process. It covers everything from prevention to providing immediate relief during a crisis, and then the long-term work of rehabilitation for the communities affected. But let's bring it down to the here and now. Forget the big systems for a minute. What can you do in those critical first moments right after an accident happens? This is environmental management at its most personal. This is where first aid is just absolutely essential. And a really simple, super effective technique to remember for things like sprains is the RICE method. It gives you a clear plan of action to manage the situation. It's an acronym. Rest the injury, apply ice to help with pain and swelling, use a bandage for compression, and finally, elevation. Keep it raised. RICE, a simple framework for a chaotic moment. So, we've traveled from the vastness of the clouds, through our own backyards, and all the way down to our personal response in a crisis. Now, let's tie it all together.
It all comes back to that one big idea we started with: environmental management. Decoding the skies with meteorology, that's managing our atmospheric environment. Sorting our waste with the 3 Rs, that's managing our impact on our physical surroundings. And responding to an injury with first aid, that's managing a crisis in our immediate personal environment. See, it's all connected.
So I'll leave you with this final question. Now that you see this thread that connects the entire planet all the way down to you, what is one small act of management that you can improve starting today? Maybe it's checking the forecast, sorting your recycling just a little more carefully, or maybe it's just committing that rice method to memory.